Well, as the plot thickens and characters go on their own separate journeys, Pretty Little Liars finally starts to feel like a final season.
The show that I know you won't tell what I said. These two can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
Hey guys, it's Cameron for Pretty Little Liars, Season 7, Episode 8, Exes and OMGs, which, again, with the title, what the fuck, I don't know really what they're thinking, but anyways, as you guys predicted, I wasn't particularly looking forward to this episode. I mean, it's 2 weeks old and I still haven't reviewed it, so that kind of shows you something. I really haven't been loving this season. I think this season has been a very slow burn. I think it's been very unfocused, and it really didn't seem like a final season, and I really didn't know how this episode was going to be, I have to say. However, I gotta say, I actually really enjoyed this episode for the most part. I mean, there were a couple things, but this was actually a great episode. I actually really did like this one. I thought there was some really great stuff going on here. I thought that it really starts to seem like the plot is thickening, and characters are really starting to figure things out, and this was the episode that, to me, felt the most like a final season. I mean, you have characters that are coming back, you have things that we haven't talked about in a while that are starting to come back, and that's something that you really do want in a final season. And, of course, it was officially revealed that the show, it is the final season, so I like that it is definitely starting off that way. But let's just get into this episode, because there actually is a lot that happened here. But we start off, now, I will say, the first, 6 minutes I wasn't a huge fan of. I really wasn't. But, we start off after that twist where, Charlotte had a biological brother or sister, and, of course, Ezra's lost girlfriend Nicole may still be alive. So we begin the episode by reviewing what they know so far, that, Noel Kahn stole Mary Jake's file, then hid the file in Jenna's room before placing a call to someone named Dr. Cochran. Now, Noel is the girl's lead suspect for AD's true identity, and the girls ask Allie what she thinks, and Allie agrees that she once trusted Noel, but only until she discovered that he was only helping her as a way to spy on her for Charlotte. So, really, she thinks it's very sketchy right now with Noel. I mean, it definitely seems like he's not really someone that should be trusted, and when the girls question Allie what she had over Noel back when he helped her escape, she reveals that the frat party the girls attended back in their freshman year, which is interesting that we found this out, and that's a great example of how you utilize a final season, because that's one of the first flashbacks I believe we ever saw on the show was that frat party and all the rebellious stuff that Allie did to them. And Noel, we find out, pushed a girl down the stairs, and his family paid off the girl, and Allie believes that reporting him to the police now is not an option, because obviously, you could tell that his family is very rich, and they'll do whatever they can to protect their son's innocence. So really, there's nothing they can do. If Noel is AD, there's nothing they can really do right now. They kind of just have to deal with it. And that, I think, is very interesting. That is how you create an interesting plot point. And that I found to be something that I really did like here, is that if Noel really is AD, it makes perfect sense, because AD seems to be just seemingly doing this stuff, and they can't do anything about it. And if it's Noel, I mean, this is a rich guy whose parents are very rich and will do anything to protect their son's innocence, and I think that's very interesting. So Hanna becomes upset because the others are not taking Noel seriously as a new AD. She really feels that they should be, and I like the way that Hanna really does step up in this episode. Hanna really did take front and center here, and I really did love that. So as she walks away, Caleb follows. The two are arguing when suddenly a car driven by Noel pulls up and hits Caleb, and it's then revealed that the scene was just Hanna's nightmare, and this is where I was really pissed. I'm like, really? It's just a dream? Like, I almost, threw my computer, because I was really pissed that they did that. And I can't stand it when shows do that. When you have something interesting and then it's a nightmare, I thought that was really dumb. But after that, I thought the episode was really good, because obviously she's worried that Caleb is in danger. And I have to say, I do think that's a good way of foreshadowing what may be coming, because we know that there's a major death happening in the finale. So I'm thinking Caleb could be the major death. I mean, think about it. He doesn't really have that much to do on this show anymore. He seems to be only there to be an interest to either Spencer and Hanna, and I feel like now would be the right time to get rid of him. They said it's a major death, so Caleb, I feel this is foreshadowing that Caleb could be the one that gets killed tonight. But she goes to see him, and the two discuss their progress on the case, and they're still trying to crack the DNA code in Mary Drake's file, and Jenna hasn't made any suspicious moves. So it seems like things actually are kind of okay on their end, which I thought was interesting. And I like the way that we saw Hanna and Caleb in this episode. It seems that the two are in fact, together, but they're kind of still friends, and I like seeing that. I think it's interesting the way that's being done, but I'm not really going to complain because it wasn't a huge part of this episode. Meanwhile, Aria is venting to Emily about Nicole reemergence and her guilt over deleting her call, and as she's telling Emily that she lied to Ezra, he walked in and she confesses to deleting the call because, of course, she doesn't want, I think she doesn't want Nicole to be back. She wants this wedding to actually go on, and if Nicole's back, then then she could really damage their wedding. And Ezra tells her that the convoy which kidnapped Nicole was spotted, and the military's going after them to see if she is still alive, because she could still be alive. And I'm still not 100% into this plot. I think it's really dumb that they're just retconning this. I mean, like I said, we spend half of a season trying to get Ezra to deal with grieving over his girlfriend's death, who we did care about, and we did see flashbacks of, and I think that was enough to see, and now all of a sudden it seems like she's back, and I just don't really understand why they're doing that. I mean, don't we want Ezra and Aria together? That's what doesn't make sense to me, is that Ezra and Aria is someone that I think they want together, so why are they splitting these two up? At least that's what I think they're doing. I think they're trying to split them up. I don't know why they're trying to do that, because it seems like everyone wants them together, and, I just don't really understand. I mean, if the show is focused on fan service, then stick to that. Don't do things that don't really make sense. This makes no sense why they're doing this. There's nothing beneficial they're getting out of this. Other than that, though, I really like the episode. It's just that really almost ruined the episode for me. But what I like is that it's not a huge part. I mean, it is in the episode, and it is talked about, but it's not the main stuff going on here. Because Emily then has coffee with Allie, and we are reminded how great chemistry these two really do have. Because I have to say, I really do think, because it's the final season, they're really setting up Emily and Allie to get back together. I really think that is going to happen. I mean, they've never really had an actual relationship, but I'm pretty sure that, especially from the looks of this episode, these two will probably be together by the end of the show. I really could see that happening. And she tells her that she's going to teaching today. Emily fears that Allie's just going back too soon, obviously because of what happened the last time, but Allie's out of money thanks to Archer, and she has no choice but to go back to work, unfortunately, because we know that Archer took all the money and everything, and she needs to get money somehow, so the only way to do that is to go back to work. And I gotta say, I did like seeing Allie as a teacher here. We're reminded that she's a teacher, we're reminded that this is what she's doing, and I like that we saw that. And I like that in this episode, we're reminded of what most of the girls are doing in their jobs. We see Principal Hackett runs into Emily, encourages her to apply for the position of swim coach at the high school, and honestly, that is something I could totally see Emily doing. Someone like Emily, who doesn't really have much of a future right now, and really is only trying to pay money, and really doesn't have much of a direction of where she's going, I think this would be the perfect fit for Emily. I mean, we know how much she was into swimming, we know how much she always loved it, and we also know she doesn't really want to do it professionally, and I think this would be the perfect way to do that for her, to become a swim coach, and I could totally see her doing that, and that's a perfect way to have scenes with Emily and Allie together. I definitely really did like that. So Spencer finds Dr. Cochran's name in Mary's file, and since the doctor's address is in Brookhaven, she and Ari decide to track down him or her down, and I thought that definitely would work, because obviously we know that there's some sort of connection between this doctor and Mary, so they're trying to figure out what's going on with that. So back at work, Allie sees a classroom full of kids in black hoodies, and she becomes very ill because she just doesn't really know if she's ready, and especially for a class like this, you can tell isn't really into what she's teaching them. She really isn't sure if she's ready to do this, but she already committed. She kind of just has to do it, and afterwards, she and Emily discuss Hackett's suggestion to Emily that she apply for swim coach, and Allie actually encourages her to apply for the job, and I'd agree. I think it is, like I said, the perfect fit for Emily, and Emily blames herself for advising Aria to delete the call from Nicole and begins to hatch a plan to help Aria, because obviously her and Ezra are not on the best of terms right now, and she wants the wedding to go well, so she's trying to figure out what to do there. So meanwhile, Aria and Spencer go to find Cochran, and instead they find his daughter, who says that he was in OBGYN, who lost his license years ago, and she says she doesn't know where her father is, and she hasn't spoken to him in years, unfortunately, but she does give them this warning to stay away from Dr. Cochran. So whoever this doctor is, he seems very much like he's not really someone that should be trusted. I mean, this isn't really a good doctor. He seems very much like a corrupted doctor who probably was forced and negotiated and manipulated by Noel and people like that to do stuff, and we'll have to see what happens there, but I think that definitely is very interesting, and the way they're setting up this character, Dr. Cochran, I really do like. So back at Ezra's apartment, Emily confesses to him that she was the one who convinced Ari to delete Nicole's call from his cell phone, Ezra, however, does not understand Aria's motives for that. Obviously, he doesn't really understand why she'd do that, and says that he needs time to think everything through on why, Emily was the one that did that and why Aria listened to her. He doesn't really understand that, and I like that this isn't them just splitting up. I like that. So Hanna then has flashbacks of her time being tortured by A.D., and suddenly Grunwald appears at her door, and I have to say, these are some of the best scenes in the episode between Grunwald and Hanna, because that would totally make sense why Grunwald would be the one to talk to Hanna. I mean, we know Hannah's having these flashbacks, and Grunwald's always kind of been like a therapist for everyone, so I like seeing Grunwald again. I don't think we've seen her since the Ravenswood days, and I've always really liked her character, so it's cool to see her back, and she tells Hanna that she had a dream, that there was a darkness around her and Caleb, and asks if the two of them are alright. And that, like I said, I think that's definitely setting up that something is going to happen to Caleb, and I think it revolves around Hanna and Caleb together. I think it's trying to say that those two cannot be together, or Caleb's in danger. And meanwhile, Cochrane's daughter calls Spencer, accuses her of having someone ransack her office, and she gives Spencer an address of her father's last known whereabouts and tells her to bring a bottle of whiskey if she wants him to cooperate, because he's not going to listen unless they bring him the whiskey, which is interesting that we saw. So I thought that was interesting. And at the Radley, Hanna then speaks to Grunwald about what has been happening with A.D. Obviously, they don't really know what's going on. She needs to talk to someone about it. And like I said, I like that this was Hannah's chance to talk to someone about this. I thought that was definitely very well done, and I thought overall those scenes were very interesting that we had there. So Allie's in teaching her class. One student calls her out about her past and what she did, and this makes sense because Allie has her reputation. She's been on TV, and this is something that Allie's going to have to deal with. And it's something I don't really think the show's touched upon a lot, that Allie is someone that was missing for a while, and now that she's back and she is teaching, she does have a past, and most likely everyone's going to come across that past. I mean, when you look up someone on, like, Google or something, all their previous stuff comes up, and Allie, most likely, all her stuff is going to be negative, so that's probably why her students are so actively against her, and I like the scene where she's trying to talk to them about Shakespeare, and all they want to talk about is her manipulating people and all these things that she did, and I thought that was definitely, actually, a very well done scene. It really made us sympathize with Allie, and I really did like that. You guys know that one of the best decisions I think the show's ever made is to bring back Allie, and this reminds you guys why Allie is my favorite character on the show. I've always really liked her character, especially what they've done in the second half when they brought her back, and scenes like this remind me why I like the character so much, and why I think Sasha Piertis really does a great job in this role. So back at the Radley, Grunwald continues to warn her that she's in danger, but can only tell that the source of the danger is close, and we don't know exactly what that means or what's going on there. But then, right after that, there's Noel. He approaches Hanna, asking her if she has any country drives lately. She reaches out, he touches Hanna, and sharing her in her flashbacks of torture from A.D., causing her nose to begin bleeding. Noel leaves, calling them freaks, and this basically makes Hanna think that this definitely must have been the person that tortured her. I mean, there really is no other question whatsoever. It had to have been Noel. It just had to have been. There's no other way it couldn't have been, and that Noel definitely was the person that must have tortured her. So Hackett calls Allie to his office, asks how she is after the prank that her students played, and he questions whether she made the right choice returning back to work so quickly. He feels that she's still in a place where she's definitely not equipped to come back to work. She's obviously still haunted from what happened with Archer, and she, of course, like Allie said, she's there to make money. That's why she's there. So she spots a filing cabinet with information about the class of 2012, and an eye on the cabinet tells Hackett that she made the right decision, definitely. That's what she feels, at least, that this definitely was the right thing to do, and that she wasted no time in doing this. So, and we know that 2012 is actually when they graduated, because if you remember, seasons 4, 5, and part of 6 were all the same year, and that started, I believe, in 2012, which was interesting, and Hanna then calls the girls together to tell them about her interaction with Grunwald, and she tries to convince them that Noel is A.D. because she has this proof. And I thought Ashley Benson really killed in this scene where she's trying to tell, just beg to them and let them know, hey, Noel definitely is A.D. It has to be him. I have all these signs. There's no way that it can't be him. And I agree. There's really no way that it can't be Noel. I mean, there's signs that point to it. Everything that Hanna has, I mean, it very much seems like it is him. And Spencer and Aria then go to see Dr. Cox Cochran, who tells him that he used to be an on-call doctor at Radley. He said that his job was to make babies that were problems just go away. And that's very creepy the way he said that, but he says that he gave one of the babies, a boy, to Mary's sister, of course, Jessica. And a few years later, Mary became pregnant again, and the child was put into the temporary custody of Children's Services. And he could not remember whether the child was a boy or a girl. He tells him to give his daughter a message so she can't run from family. And I know there's this theory going around that Spencer could possibly be Mary's second child, and honestly, I feel like it holds a lot of weight, especially because, as we know, Spencer and Allie have always been connected in that way, and we've never really fully understood the folks. I mean, we've known, obviously, that there was definitely an affair that Spencer's dad had with Jessica. We've always known that, but I feel like this is kind of hinting that maybe there is more going on. I mean, think about it. Why would Mary Drake go to Spencer all this time? Why would she keep going back to Spencer? I mean, it seems like out of all the liars, she's never had a scene where she talks to Aria. She's had scenes where she talks to Hanna, but it's mainly always been about Spencer. Why would it always be Spencer? Maybe Spencer is that lost child, and honestly, it could very much make sense, and I feel like that might be what we're getting to, that Spencer might be Mary's missing child, and that's interesting that we get out there. So Emily then goes to the high school to apply for the coaching job, and she sees Paige, who is also applying, and that is the perfect way that you bring back a character. I thought that was really well done, because yeah, it does make sense why Paige would do this kind of thing, because they are catching up, and it was great to see Lindsay Ridgway back. She always is great in the role, and and I believe the last time we saw her was season 5. I don't think we've seen her since then, so it was really cool that she came back, and it's revealed that the reason they broke up is because Emily was a mess after her dad died, we find out, and Paige tells Emily that instead of being in the Olympics, she was in a car accident, which prevented her from training, and that's the reason why, why Emily was a mess and everything. And I thought that was interesting that we found this out, that she basically was in this really bad car accident, prevented her from training, and she wasn't able to follow her dreams. And it's sad to see, but that's actually kind of realistic what happened there, that she wasn't able to do it, and that she is in this position now. And I don't think they're trying to get Emily and Paige back together. I hope they're not, because I think Emily and Allie have much better chemistry. For right now, I'm just going to say they're doing it so they can see this, so we can have more scenes with them and remind how good of a chemistry they have. I've always liked Emily and Paige, but I've never really seen them as endgame. I see Emily and Allie as endgame, and I feel like that's definitely what they're trying to do here. Again, I don't ship things. I'm just saying what I think is best for the show. I think the best thing for the show is to get Emily and Allie together. I just think it would make more sense. So, back at the school, Allie breaks into Hackett's office, searches Noel's files to find a single paper with a warning message for her friends, and we don't know what this means, but I think this is definitely confirming that if Noel is not AD, he's definitely in cahoots with AD. I mean, we've known this for a while, that Noel obviously is connected to this whole thing. He was working with Jenna, he was working with, Sarah, obviously he very much could be AD. Now, the big question is, why would Sarah be murdered if, Noel is AD? Well, if you really think about it, Sarah, I think maybe wasn't really of use to them. Maybe Sarah knew some information and they didn't fully trust her. Now it's starting to make more sense on how Sarah could have been killed and why Sarah could have been killed. Now, I think now I can understand why they did that. I think it was kind of more of a mercy killing or something like that. I honestly don't know. Maybe there was more going on with Sarah than we think. I feel like we're going to find out, though. We'll have to see what happens with that. Meanwhile, Ezra is glued to the news, waiting for news of Nicole. Aria cashed in their tickets to Italy, bought him a plane ticket to go back to Columbia and try to find Nicole. He feels that's the best thing to do, and obviously because he very much cares about her and he misses her. And Allie then shows a note from Noel's file to the other girls, seeing the note that causes Hanna to have another flashback, and she leaves the others. So she makes a call to someone unknown, telling him that the deal is on. She will give them money in exchange for keys, and we don't know who the hell she's talking to here, but obviously it's someone very important. And then the other person is to forget her name, and that I thought was very interesting. Who's she talking to? Who's the person on the phone? What's going on with that? She then goes to see Caleb, tells him that she's going to New York for a few days, and Ezra goes to the airport to fly to Cambodia to find Nicole. And I thought this really was a good setup for the final 2 episodes. Everyone's kind of off doing their own thing. Paige sees Emily and Sabrina together. She's thinking that, maybe they have some sort of relationship or something. And Spencer goes through a family photo album while Hanna is shown taping up the windows of an unknown location. We don't know what's going on there, but that is the way the episode ends, with kind of everyone off doing their own thing, which I definitely really did like, but they're all there for the same reasons, and that is the way the episode ends. But let's get into this episode overall, and my predictions for the next episode. Now, while it is kind of pointless to talk about my predictions because this episode was 2 weeks ago, I do still want to talk about it because there was a lot of really good stuff in this episode. Where's Hanna, first of all? Where is she going? Who is she going to meet? We don't really know. And why exactly did she go on her own? What's the deal that she's doing? I'm thinking that she's going to plead guilty to killing, to killing Charlotte, but the thing is, she already tried to plead guilty. It didn't work. So I'm thinking that maybe it's connected to that. I don't really know. I think that's going to be interesting, though, as to why she ended up doing that. And we know the last time Hanna almost died, so I really hope this is a smart thing to do and she doesn't end up possibly getting killed again. I don't think she's going to die, but we'll have to see what happens with that. I think that definitely was a very interesting scene. Now, Spencer, like I said, her going through that photo album, I think is her kind of wondering, am I possibly that second child? I'm thinking Spencer very well could be Mary's second child. It just kind of makes sense. Why would Mary go to her all the time? I mean, it just makes sense on how she could have been her second child. And the fact that Cochran doesn't remember if it's a he or a she is very sketchy. I mean, how would you not remember if it was a boy or a girl? I don't really know how he remembers that. If you can remember the memory, I don't really understand that. I really think Emily should take this job. I think it's a good position for her. I think the right thing to do is to go forward with it. I think it would make sense if she did take it. And her and Paige, I don't know if they're trying to get them back together. Like I said, I think Emily and Allie would make a lot more sense. But if they do get them back together, all right. I've never disliked them. I've never been a huge fan of Paige and Emily. I definitely will say that. I know I told you guys this. I've never really loved their relationship. But I do like where this is headed. I think it definitely is going to be interesting to see where that goes. Is Nicole alive? I don't know. I kind of feel like someone's tricking Ezra. I don't really know what's going on here. I really hope that Nicole's not alive because I just feel it's really it makes this entire arc feel pointless. It makes everything we've had with Ezra from this point on feel like it should never have happened, and I hope they don't do that. I really hope that doesn't happen. As far as Caleb goes, I really think that this whole thing that Hanna had, like the dream, that's an omen, really. It's an omen showing that something bad is definitely going to happen to Caleb. If Caleb is not killed in the finale, I think he's at least going to be injured very badly. I think something is definitely going to happen to Caleb. I think we're definitely going to see that, and I think it definitely is going to happen. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I think that's going to be interesting as well. And then what Grunwald is saying, where danger is afoot. What does that really mean? Who's in danger? What's the extent of that? We don't really know. We'll have to see what happens with that. And also Allie. Was Allie really ready to go back to school? I mean, I think she's hoping she could. We know that she obviously was searching Noel's file to find a page with, warning message and figure out what was really going on there. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I really feel like we're coming to, where this all started. If you remember in episode 10, we get that scene where everyone says he's coming. I think that's what's going to happen in the finale. I think we're going to get there. I'm going to talk more about that in the next episode. But anyways, guys, this episode for me really was the comeback episode for the show. I really did love this episode overall. I think episodes like this really do show that the show is still capable of having genuine storylines, because this episode actually had storylines. This wasn't just random stuff going on throughout the episode. I felt like this episode was consistent. I think they're going to be consistent from here on out. I heard the next episode's really good. But anyways, guys, I know what you guys thought of this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. I really did love this episode overall. I thought it was, like I said, besides the Nicole stuff, I really did enjoy it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for episode 9 of Pretty Little Liars, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.